What is good, everybody? It's cold here. On this rainy on and off day that I won't be able to get a walk in. How's everybody doing out there? How's everybody doing out there in YouTube land? I want to thank everyone for the new subs and all that. So let's get into it. So I want to talk about why it's so hard to level up to progress. Why can't I seem to make any progress? Why can't I seem to get to where I want to be at, right? So I want to try to tackle those items here. So I made a list here, so I'm going to try to do that and drive and not have an accident. I got a couple of errands to run today, so we're going to get this done. All right. So why can't I seem to make any progress? Why can't why can't I see myself? Why can't I go forward? Why can't I improve? Well, first of all, you got to recognize that you have limitations on yourself. You cannot, I cannot, we cannot see ourselves fully. That's why it's so important that we have assessments from other individuals. That's why it's so important that we have assessments from other individuals. How do other individuals see you? I've talked about this before, right? On your job, some jobs have what they now call 360 evaluations, right? So you can evaluate yourself. If you're a supervisor, you evaluate your employees. Your upper management will evaluate you. And now there's a new trend in which, or maybe it's not new, but there's a trend in which your subordinates will evaluate you as a supervisor. Keeps everybody on their toes, right? Because we think oftentimes that we are the best. We are the hero in our own story. We are the most important person in our life. And we think that because I watched the TV show, and I got to remember that when I make these videos, right? I got to remember that everybody doesn't watch the same videos that I do. Don't watch the same TV shows. So that's why I got to try to remember to give exposition to what I'm talking about, because I know that everybody isn't watching the same thing. But we think if we know about it, then everybody knows about it. And I constantly, when I'm correcting papers, I have to tell my students this, right? You have to expound, you give a definition or whatever. You got to tell me what it is. Yes, I'm an instructor. Yes, I know what it is. But I want you to get in the habit of talking and writing and relating to so that, because everybody doesn't know what you're talking about, right? So you got to get in the habit of explaining yourself. So you got to be able to take an accurate assessment of yourself, and that is going to include getting the opinions of other people, your parents, your coworkers, your boss, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, even your children, right? Ask them, these are difficult questions, but if you really want the truth and if you really want to improve, then this is what it's going to take. You got to get an accurate picture of yourself. Everybody's picture is not going to be the same. You might be a great husband or spouse, but a terrible employee. You might be a great manager, but a terrible subordinate to your upper echelon, right? So, you got to get a complete, accurate picture, and then work on all sides of that particular picture. So that is number one. A big one, I think, that's number two, is a big one for me, is that we live in a culture and in a society in which it has become popular not to push people and not to want them to exceed and excel. Not that it is deliberate, but that it is a consequence of the society that we're living in. When we are living in a society that says it's okay to be fat, let's just say what it is, right? It's okay to be fat because now you're fat shaming, right? Or whatever, right? And it's always ironic to me. I don't like to always pick on the gender war type of thing, even though that's kind of where some of this content is going. So that's where this content is going. It's become unpopular to criticize ladies because they're overweight, or everybody's a queen and everybody's a princess and everybody deserves to be treated like that. But they certainly don't think that same thing about men, right? If you don't make enough money, you're broke. You're a broke dusty. You don't drive the right type of car, you're a broke dusty. You're not tall enough, then you are eliminated from the consideration. right? And not to mention the size of your manhood. So all this type of stuff. And listen, I understand, and these are things that are expressed. Now, I think that women also are operating under the same type of um, social influences, but it's just expressed differently, and it's unpopular to live in, to try to express that. So, but again, I think that we're living in a society that is creating the sense of delusion, right? We have become so uh, free, so comfortable because of our advanced technologies that we have set up delusional standards, and it becomes unpopular. Man, it's later than I thought it would. It becomes unpopular to try to correct some of those standards, or try to talk to them about them in any type of meaningful way. So that is a problem. That is a problem because that prohibits and stunts our growth. If we can't, number one, see ourselves as we really are, and if everybody around us is telling us that we're good the way that we are, we're a queen, you're a queen, you're a princess, you got to be treated this way, right? With this bubble wrapped society that we're living in, right? We want to take people away from the problems and all that, right? There was a Instagram video I watched the other day. This guy had his child. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl, and he put her on the roof of a SUV, and the child starts crawling up, and then she's playing the hiding game, and the mother runs out the house and goes up on the car and gets the child because why? Because she's afraid that the baby's going to fall off. Now, listen, the father was watching it. He's maneuvered, so even if she fell, whether it's on the left side, the right side, north, south, whatever, he was right there. But that's the difference between men and women, right? It is a big difference between men and women. You got to be able to push yourself. You got to be able to push those boundaries. And fathers do a much better job at that. To bubble wrap this society and not let people go outside and touch grass and fall out of trees and get into fights and all this other type of stuff that we have completely almost eliminated through the advancement of technology and their safety, right? Is creating the very type of soft, in particular, men that nobody wants. You got to let him go out there outside and challenge himself. You got to let him go outside and fail and fall and hit his and hit his knee and skin his knee, and you got to let him go out there and do that. That is what builds character. That is what builds toughness. That is what helps people understand their boundaries and pushes them to do it next time, right? Last time I climbed this tree, I only got up 10 feet. And I pushed myself, and even though I fell on my way out, now, man, the next time I do go up there and do it, I go to 12 feet, I go to 15 feet, I go to 20 feet, right? Pushing yourself. That is essential, and that is becoming very, very difficult when and if we live in a culture that is so woke that we don't want to do anything, or so wanting to bubble wrap our society. It becomes problematic. Right, the next point that I want to talk about is our standards have been lowered, right? Whether it's joining the police force, corrections, military, jobs, going to college, right? That some colleges, you don't need certain tests and all this kind of stuff, right? Did you know that there was a study that came out that said that the average IQ rate, if I find it, I'll put it up. IQ rate of college students is lowered. How does that happen? Well, the average IQ rate of college graduates or college people in college is lower. This is supposed to be the freest, most advanced country. Well, not advanced, but I don't even know what people would say about the U.S. anymore. But the education system is supposed to be top tier, higher education system. People all over the world want to come to the U.S. to go to universities. So how is it that this is lower? And listen, I've said this before, I'm not an educator, but we got to take a systematic, comprehensive view of what's going on in our public education systems. Some of that's blame is going to be on the parents. I don't care what anybody says. Some of it's blamed on the parents, but some of it, right? This stuff that we're teaching in schools, this new math and right, kids can't read. Not only are black boys unable to read, or 10% of black boys are reading on grade level, But I'm talking about kids who can read, can't read. And here's what I mean by that, right? They don't know anything about phonics, phonetically sounding out words, right? They all they can do is look at a word and they just go by rote memorization. But they encounter a new word, they don't know how to pronounce it. And listen, I'm studying this, right? I'm not studying this, but I teach at a college level, right? I make students do some speeches and stuff, do PowerPoint presentations and all this kind of stuff, and they're mispronouncing words. They're mispronouncing words. These are words you should know. These are maybe 10th grade words, freshman year words. You got to take a look at that, right? Just lowering the standards, right? And I'm saying this because this is prohibiting all of us from advancing. If you don't recognize what your potential is, right? You can only go so far, but you got to recognize your potential. And so see where you are and then try to advance to the next level. Why can't you get to the next level? Well, if you're stuck at this level and you don't recognize it, this is a problem. The level that I'm in is a problem. And we got to do better in order to get there, right? I think there's a lack of pushing people. Right? Exactly what I'm talking about. You're fine the way you are. We don't need to do this, right? We dumb down this. Dumb down is the wrong word, but it's the right phrase, but I want to say it nicer, right? We have relaxed and lowered the standards, right? So people aren't pushing themselves. You gotta push yourself. I told a story about my friend who used to always play the game on easy mode, not pushing himself, right? I told a story. I'll tell it again about the game that I play, God of War. There was a scene in the movie, or there's a cinematic in the video game God of War, the first one, with his son Atreus. And in the video game, right, there's a monster, and the kid starts as son of the protagonist, Kratos. Told you I gotta explain on this for the non-video game heads out there, right? So Kratos is the protagonist; he's the hero of the story, and his son is with him, and they're on this journey. And the son sees this monster and gets afraid, and so Kratos says, "We're gonna fight this monster." He's like, "Why? We can go around it." Right? We're living in a time where everybody wants to be Atreus and go around it. Well, I can just go around it. I don't got to deal with that on it. It's too hard. And he says, because you're afraid of it. We're going to do it because you're afraid of it. You cannot succumb to your fears. You cannot succumb to something because it's hard. You cannot, should not, must not succumb to something. Refuse to engage with it because it's hard. I went back to school and got my doctorate because it was hard, because I had visions and dreams and goals and things I want to accomplish. And yes, it was hard. And every day I questioned myself. Every time I did a paper, for 2 years, I just do papers about leadership and criminal justice and stuff, things that I knew inside and out. I'm like, but why am I doing this? And then I had to do the research, the dissertation, and I'm like, why am I doing this? It's hard. But that's why I did it, because it's hard, and because I had a goal in mind. And if you don't have a goal in mind, then it'll become easy for you to drop out, to quit, to fail, to fall out. And you won't push yourself. You won't push yourself. Why is pushing yourself so hard? You don't have anybody to hold you accountable. Atreus was held accountable by his father. His father said, you're gonna be a certain person. This is the problem with men dropping out of the workforce. No one's holding them accountable. This is the problem when men don't have wives. They don't have to do anything. They can sit in the house playing video games all day, watching their funny movies all day, going through bottles of lotion, ordering pizzas, getting fat, lowering testosterone, totally engaging from society. They can do all that. And there's another extreme out there which is being addressed as becoming entering into violent spheres. Not sure about how big that is. It's still something I'm researching. But this is a problem. When nobody's holding you accountable, if you don't have a boss, your parents don't hold you responsible, you don't have a wife or a girlfriend to hold you responsible and tell you to get yourself up, get yourself together, get a better job, get a better house, get a better car, get a better income, push yourself, work more, work harder, work smarter, right? If there's no one pushing you to do that, then you will not be encouraged to advance. Why is improving so hard? Why is improving? Because nobody's helping you. Nobody's watching you. You're not accountable. You don't have to answer to anybody. This is a problem with the whole working from home community and people, particularly men, leaving the workforce. And we live in a society of instant gratification. They used to call it the microwave. The microwave's too slow now, right? The oven, you used to turn on the oven, have to wait 15, 20 minutes for it to warm up. Then you had the microwave society in which 1 to 2 minutes you can have a 2 minutes you can have a bag of popcorn, 2-3 minute potato or whatever, right? That was a microwave. Now we're living in a TikTok era where it's 1 minute videos, right? Clips. And I have people telling me, listen, you got to do these clips and stuff, man. Unless somebody does it for me, I'm not doing it, right? Long form content, right? So people can listen to this, whether you're going for a walk, or you can, or on your treadmill, or on a drive or whatever. I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with those small little tidbits. They certainly can be profitable in giving wisdom. But this instant gratification that we have, right? It's now we got to get these dopamine hits now, immediately. This is leading us to a stagnant, glutton-filled, sedated society that is becoming comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. We are becoming comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And the problem is you don't even recognize that you're in an uncomfortable situation. The problem is you don't even recognize that we don't recognize that we're in an uncomfortable situation. If you don't know the analogy about boiling a frog, let me tell it to you, right? If you throw a frog, I've never tried this. This is an analogy. God, I hope it's not true. I mean, I guess people who eat frogs, I don't know. But if you throw a frog in the water, it'll jump out, right? Boiling water. It'll jump out. However, if you turn up the degrees of the stove slowly, 1 degree at a time, wait a minute, let them get adjusted to it, another minute or so, I don't know, the exact timage. Eventually, you can turn it up to boiling, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, boiling, and the frog never even notices that it's going on. And this is what's happening. This is how people gain weight. You haven't worn a pair of jeans in 2 months. Now you try them on again, right? Because you've been eating, not working out, slowly but surely. And we want to take it off instant. We want to put it on and take it off instantly, right? Again, the microwave situation, right? We want to just go get surgery instead of going to the gym. Get a ribs removed. Oh my God, I can't even think about getting a ribs removed. But this is the type of society that we're living in, and why we're having such a problem with trying to improve. So this instant gratification, nobody's holding us accountable. We got to do things. We got to tackle things because they're hard. We got to tackle things because they're hard. No one's pushing us. Our standards have been lowered. Society's delusional. And we got to take an accurate assessment of ourselves. I ran it through forwards and backwards, right? So those are just some of the ideas that I had about why it's so hard to improve. Why is it so hard to improve? And these things it's hard to improve. It's hard to apply yourself to something and to continue it to the end. It's hard to do that because it gets harder. But when listen, I'm a 51-year-old man as I record this. 51 years old. I look at my life and the things that I went through, man, I'm telling you, when you get on the other side, you recognize it wasn't that hard. And there was times I was embarrassed. There was times I messed up. There were times things got hard. My bachelor's degree was hard. My master's degree was hard. My doctor was hard. My marriages were hard. Raising my kids was hard. It was hard. It was hard. Learning to drive was hard. Making mistakes, learning from my mistakes. But when you look at your life and you look back and you did it, there's nothing that I don't think I can do. Right? The police academy was hard. First time I learned how to swim. I remember the first time I learned how to swim. I was crying. I was 10 years old. I was 9 or 10 years old, and they said I'd swim, swimming in the deep in the shallow end of the pool, swimming, right. And they said, Lawrence. Actually, the summer camp I went to, everybody called me Mark, right? So they were like, Mark, it's time for you to go in the deep end. I was crying. I don't want to get in the deep end, right? I'm scared. It was hard, but they kept coaxing me. Finally, I got in, right? I didn't just jump in, right? I slowly went down the ladder, and they swam onto them, and they're holding me. And next week, I jump in. Next thing you know, I'm diving, winning races. Still got the medals. I think they're still in my mother's house. Winning races, right? I was a very athletic kid. Winning races, swimming races. It's one step at a time. It's hard, but you got to progress. You got to go through. You got to keep going. And when you look back, you're like, man, that really wasn't hard. But the first time you try it, it's going to be. And you may look back and be like, oh my God, I'm glad I got through. But you got through it. And if you had to do it again, you could. I look at Navy SEAL training, BUD training, and all that. I'm like, man, I know these dudes are dying, they're hard, but there's all these Navy SEALs, all these special forces out here, and they did it. All these guys on the SWAT teams, all these guys in the CERT teams, the cell extraction teams for corrections, all the firefighters, specialized firefighters, and all the specialized teachers who went through all this training, and the principals and the CEOs of companies, and all these different people who along the way had to get beat up in order to be in their positions. You had to get beat up to be in your position. But you're there, and you made it. And you look back and like, man, I can't believe I did that, but I did it. And you got the plaques and the certifications and the diplomas and the scars to prove that you did it. I'm one of them. So this is some of my thoughts about why it's so hard to improve. And I think that our society is not pushing us to the best. I think it's sedating, and particularly men. It's not pushing the men. It ought to be a national emergency what's going on with men. They don't want to stay home and play video games. They're not in the workforce. They're not in the dating force. They're not in the dating pool. Something like 60% of men, something like that, aren't looking. Another, I don't know the percentage of men who are not in the workforce and not looking. I don't know. But it's not an emergency because they're importing your replacements. It's not. They don't care. They're importing your replacements. So you got to push yourself. You got to find your own motivation. You got to find your own motivation. I used to be, and this is the last point I'm going to say, because this I'm talking about focus here, and this is what it takes to focus and get where you want. When I was in my 20s, right? So I was trying to get into bodybuilding and stuff, and I was trying to get big. I was really trying to bulk up and be one of those dudes. And it was, and I used to have motivation. I had posters on my wall, like, oh, man, I want to get like this, man. And I had the routines, particularly Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had his routine. Like, this is what he did: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Right? This is what he ate. I had all that. Trying to get big. I stopped because after a while I recognized you can't get that big without there's a key ingredient there that I wasn't willing to do in order to get as big as those dudes. But it is what it is. But my point is about motivation. And without motivation, man, you're not gonna do it. So this is why it's so hard to improve. Why is it so hard to improve? Why is it so hard to improve? And you got to take a look at how you see yourself. You do a good assessment. You got to take a look at your surroundings, and are people pushing you? Are they holding you accountable? Do you hold yourself accountable? And if you don't, and sometimes you can let yourself down, right? You can make a mistake. Oh man, I'm really meant to stick to this diet. But if you got a partner to do it, that's why having a spouse is really important. That's kind of what I miss. It's like, listen, you said you weren't going to eat after 10 o'clock. Isn't it too late to be eating? Ah, man, put it down, right? But sometimes you need that. You need that. You need that. So you got to push yourself. And as a father, in the God of War story I just told you about pushing Atreus, you're just going to be scared. You want to go around. You want to do something else. No, you're going to do this because it's here. And we're going to do this because you're scared of it. It's instant gratification. It makes it too easy. We don't have to work to get it done. We don't have to work to get it done. It can just be given to us. And that's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. All right, I'll leave it up there. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Listen, I've got a lot of things coming up. If you have a show idea, make sure that you hit me up in the email. Make sure that you are, the email is on the channel. Please make sure you do that. And much love and peace. I really, really appreciate it. Oh, I forgot my headphones. Dang, I gotta go home. All right, everybody, much love and peace.